Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alex Ibashenko. With me, I have Jimmy, Will, and me. And together, we are HPW Consulting. For our project, we got to work with 3W Consulting and provide several value-adding activities, such as chart of accounts, accounting research, tax research, and data analytics. For our chart of accounts, we had Will and me tackle that task together. For tax research, we had Will single-handedly tackle this task, and he did an excellent job. For web analysis, Jimmy and I took part in splitting that task into 50-50 and to provide you guys with some great analytics. Now, Will go into describing the company.
This is 3W Consulting, LLC. It's a one-person company. It's formed as an LLC, so it's a pass-through company. It just started. It does consulting for companies. Anything about leadership, maybe training your employees, so sort of those things. And management as well, if there are managers that need any training for leadership and everything. So that's what 3W Consulting does. They haven't actually, they don't have a huge base of customers yet, but they're trying as hard as they can to build that base of customers. And that's why they need a chart of accounts. Because when they bring in customers, they want to make sure that they account for all those, transactions very well. So that's 3W Consulting.
After reviewing the financial statements and the documents of 3W Consulting, we came up with a formal chart of accounts that has 5 main items: assets, liabilities, and equity for the balance sheet, and revenues and expenses for the income statement. We do want to point out one account that we added, which is salaries and wages payable. Right now, 3W Consulting only has one person, but later on we predict that the company will expand and may recruit employees, so that account will come in handy in the future. We also conducted some research on the accounting trends for small businesses. So the first trend is marketing and customer services strategy. So in 2018, the majority of small businesses are focusing on using micro-influencers to sponsor their products. Micro-influencers are those who have less than 100,000 followers. So we recommend that 3W Consulting should also focus on using 1 or 2 micro-influencers to promote the products. The second trend is technology. So in the past few years, or also in the future, many small businesses are targeting Gen Z, who are the people who were born between 1996 and 2010, and these people will account for 40% of the customers in the U.S. And also the companies are focusing on data visualization. So we recommend that 3W Consulting can also target Generation Z, and also instead of just using a list of financial statements, they can also visualize the data. And the third trend is outsourcing. In the next few years, or by 2020, paperwork will be replaced by automation. So our recommendation is that the company can outsource the areas in which she doesn't have specialized skills. So for example, if she plans to expand the company, she can hire an accountant to take care of the bookkeeping part.
Now we're going to talk about taxes. I'm always the tax guy. Well, I'm gonna speak like I'm gonna speak like a professional, but well, I'm not really a tax. Alright, let's go. Alright. What I found out that 3W Consulting, they already had, consulted other, CPAs about their taxes, so they know what taxes are for the small businesses. So what I focused on is just, looking at the new tax law, which is the Trump tax plan. So I wanted to see like how this, new tax law is going to help the small businesses, especially this small business that we're working on. Actually, I found out that there's not much that the new tax law can do for the small businesses yet, but a lot of the, this tax reform has done so much for the big corporations. So these are the few things that I found out, that they're allowed to deduct their losses. They are also allowed to deduct 100% of depreciation of the equipment that they buy starting September 2017. So if they buy, they can deduct the whole cost of the equipment for the first year that they're doing business. So it's a huge chunk. Usually you have to depreciate these things, over the years. But this one you can just, take the entire cost on the first year. So then we have some of the disadvantages. I looked into that. So this law actually made it made it complicated for small businesses to actually know themselves like they are small business. Now you have to go to this what they call North American industrial companies, whatever, and then you go in there and then you'll be able to define where you stand, depending on the size and depending on which industry are you in and the income that you're generating. So this domestic production activity deduction was actually passed back in 1994. It's taken away now, so they don't have that anymore. Also, now they need to sit down with the CPA to be able to understand. First of all, there will be an interpretation. Everybody interprets this law differently, so they need to sit with professionals to be able to understand all this. So that's going to add some, expenses to small businesses as well. Well, this is just a small survey that, I got from the NSFDA. You can see very well, but it's down here. So it shows how much they can spend now, small businesses, because of the new tax law. So you can see they spend almost 80 hours during the tax season just, to go over and know like how much they're supposed to pay for their taxes. So these are some of the, technology and tools that I recommended for her to use so that they can make their life a little bit easier. So I recommended the Xero. Xero is one of the highly rated one of the tax tools that small businesses can use. And then there's QuickBooks. She already is using QuickBooks right now. So I recommended she use FreshBooks, which has a mobile app feature that you can use wherever you go when you're going to meet your customers. And this is another survey that shows how those technology or tools are rated from the customers who are actually using them right now. So you can see that Xero is the blue one, the QuickBooks, as you can see. So the highly one is the FreshBooks, which is the one that I say has the mobile app.
Alex and I in website analysis. Because website is important for small business, for people in your company, they will also for people they will check your LinkedIn. As for company, they will check your website before they maybe contact with you. So we need website analysis find out some interesting patterns in website. Our first finding is that so this data we get from the website using built-in statistic functions. So we found out the visitors are most interested in the About Us page other than home page. Because the home page, the About Us page is inside the home page, so with that, we put the About Us page in the home page directly. And this is the currently the 3W About Us page. And we suggest that is change to a video because as we all know, we are more interested in video instead of text. Also, these are the service 3W provide, and we try to answer that the executive coaching and leadership is the most popular service. So I think these two services are professionals who are looking for promotion. So I think our target, I think 3W target customer is professionals. So this is good for target marketing. And also this is traffic source. So Facebook is most of the traffic. So we set 3W allocate more marketing expense in Facebook. And this is some posts in the past 2 years, and the rate number in past 2 years, and we found out that in 2018 there are less posts and less visitors. So there is a positive correlation between the post, the post and the visitor numbers, and we suggest 3W post more frequently to attract more visitors. That's Alex. We'll talk about the other part.
Thanks, Jimmy. So Google Analytics was something that we were taking into consideration for our client. And it was originally one of our recommendations to the client. And so here are a couple of pros that you can see from Google Analytics. We have monitor website usage, support recommendation. It provides a client with a monthly report, which is extremely useful for someone who's starting out her business and who's looking to track all of her data. We also have detailed insight on overall site performance, individual page performance, and the business impact, which again, for a new client, this is something they may want to really take into consideration to know which key areas they need to develop in. For example, in the previous slide, we saw that Facebook was a popular search, right? So that's something that they may want to emphasize their efforts on. So moving on. The tools, so what tools can you use with Google Analytics? You have your custom reports, you have your Google Analytics and Google Sheets, you have the Google Data Studio and Quill Engage. And there are other tools that the client can use. Again, we just wanted to focus on these because I believe they're maybe easier to understand for someone who doesn't have a business analytics background. Now, here are some cons of Google Analytics. There is a learning curve. So if you don't have an analytical background, it's going to take you maybe longer to understand the functionality of Google Analytics. However, that is something you can overcome if you're a quick learner or if you're willing to be persistent and determined to stay in your business for 20 plus years. It's something you can surely utilize. High traffic platforms do need the premium version, which looks like it's going to be $150,000 a year to keep the license. For her right now, I don't think it's such a big issue because she doesn't have enough clients or customers to utilize the premium version. But that's something that she may have to consider in the future as she grows and develops her own business. Google does own your own data, so anything you put out there, Google can see. And if there's something out there you may not even know is there, but Google may know. Only 20 goals, so you can only add 20 actions with the free version at least. And so once you add those goals, you can't delete them. I have no idea why they would do that, but that's Google for you. Custom report function does not allow for narrow reports. So you may want to obtain a report over a specific area, but you'll get multiple reports instead of having something that's just extremely narrow and, focused on what you're looking to obtain. And probably the worst con on here is that her WordPress plan doesn't support Google Analytics. So to even utilize this thing, she's going to have to upgrade her WordPress, which I think if she's really keen about keeping her business and utilizing analytics, that's something that she should be able to invest in, at least to get the free version of Google Analytics. You know, don't spend 150 grand a year if you don't have the revenue for it, but Google Analytics is something that's extremely powerful and being used, you know, worldwide. So our recommendation on analytics, just from the software perspective, is either to upgrade your WordPress to the business plan to enable Google Analytics, or potentially consider some of these other solutions. SE ranking, I know that's a pretty popular one, Kissmetrics, and so forth. So we would like to thank Dr. Webb. Just pretend Dr. Webb is sitting like right here in the front row. We'd like to thank Dr. Webb for coming out tonight, for letting us work with her on this project. It really means a lot to us as students, as potential consultants. It gives us valuable experience to see what it takes to really be a consultant, because there is a huge gap between reading about it in the textbook and actually going out there and doing the hard work. My personal key takeaway from this, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, I think I posted something a couple of days ago because I needed 5 or 10 points on my LinkedIn challenge, and I realized that I'm probably in need of a lot of points in this class. So for me, my key takeaway is that teamwork is very imperative. People with different backgrounds than yours, you'll be working with them your whole life, and it's important that you know how to work with those people, because you'll see them almost every day, especially if you're a consultant. And so knowing how to work with people who have different professional and personal background than yours, and being able to leverage their skills, capitalize on their strengths, and work around their weaknesses is something that can make for an efficient leader. Does anyone else? All right, thank you.
Okay.
2 minutes over.
Do what now? Yeah, they went over. I know they went over. Okay, so question on, does anyone have a question for them? Because we do need to ask at least a couple of questions. Chris first, and then Monica.
Can you go to the tax section when you were talking about the 20% for small business?
Mm-hmm.
So the only, I guess it's not necessarily a question, but like just let me ask a question. So on the one where you have advantages, so the slide before that one. So you have the 20% income deduction down there for your small business, and then on the disadvantages, you talk about like definition of small business and stuff like that. Those are really directly related, right? Like to get the small business deduction, you have to qualify through those things.
Exactly, yeah.
So
I feel like see
it's like kind of contradictory, saying like it's good here but bad there. I don't know if there's a way to like combine that into the mention of the 20%, because that's a pretty big thing for small businesses.
Yeah, but 20% is actually, this is like a summary, but the broader version of it is they have what they call qualified business, QBI, that's what they call it in this new tax law. So that is the one that's going to factor into this one. So there are some of the businesses that if you do those businesses, you don't get this 20%, even if you're a small business by definition.
Okay, Monica, you had a question?
No, I have this suggestion from Alex.
Do what now?
I mean, I was working with things like you.
I know.
But you,
I just want to keep going, but yeah, I agree. We should be more on the line.
I was trying to make you understand that it was passing, but you weren't looking. Everybody else in the group were looking.
Yeah.
I think you should maybe look at the person that's timing the presentation, because that's going off for you guys in December.
Yeah.
So don't penalize the rest of the group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the time thing is a deduction to the grade, so you just want to be careful about that. Anyone else have a question? Okay, so I want to understand if it's going to cost $150,000 to do Google Analytics, why are we even bringing this up?
I mean, I think,
Because you mentioned there's a free one, but then it says $150,000. So I know she can't afford that right now.
yeah, that's something she may want to consider way in the future. I mean,
Okay.
right now, I think the most optimal strategy, if you go to, yeah, right here. So if you go look at this slide, I think the most optimal strategy is just to upgrade to WordPress and use the free version of the Google Analytics software.
So there is a free version, but then,
The problem is her WordPress, she has
Isn't
personal
compatible.
brand. It's not compatible.
no, I understand that part, but I was just confused because you were saying there's a free version, but then it says $150,000 to do
For the
Google
premium
Analytics.
version.
Huh?
For the premium version.
Okay, so,
The free version and the premium version of Google Analytics is separate, and the free version does have some limitation
okay.
versus the premium, but for her business right now, I think the free version would suffice, and
Yeah,
she
probably.
may only have to spend, how much is it, $50 extra a month for the WordPress? I mean, I think that's worth it if she's looking to really, capture high level.
I mean, I agree with that, but I think that section needs, well, we'll hear from everyone else and then I can go back to that. But I think that you need to simplify what you're recommending there, Alex, because to me, I think it's great to talk about that, but I wouldn't even bring up the $150,000 because she's not going to be able to do that. I would just say there's a free version of Google Analytics. It's going to do this. The cost to them would be $50 a month to upgrade from WordPress to Enable. I think for $600 or whatever it would be over the year, I think that's worth it. That's worth it to get more. But talk more about what you get with the free version and not the 100. All I could see was $150,000. And I'm like, we can't do this. There's no way that she can do that right now at this point in her job, in her company. But, okay, so that was the question I had. So they're currently using QuickBooks?
She is using QuickBooks, yes.
Okay, so you guys talked about that. You looked at these different systems and then you said you recommended FreshBooks, but does it really make sense to move from QuickBooks to FreshBooks?
I was thinking maybe she can use both if she can.
How can you use both?
Like when she's traveling, because she's meeting different customers, I think that FreshBooks would be probably more appropriate for her to conduct business in that way. It would be easier for her. Because she's planning to go around and, market her business and be able to get customers.
Okay.
If she can sell anything there, that would be nice.
So I guess what you probably would want to do on that is, can QuickBooks Online and FreshBooks talk to each other? That would be the question that you need to look into.
It's very
Because if
possible,
they can, or you,
yeah.
what did you say?
It's very possible.
Okay, so you need to research that. If you find out it's doable,
Yeah.
I agree, that's perfect. But if they're not going to be compatible, then your recommendation is basically that you're recommending to go off of QuickBooks Online into FreshBooks. What's the cost of that? Why would she do it? Is it worth the benefit to move?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand a mobile app is great, but I want to make sure that really makes sense. I mean, I want to know who did this because most people will say QuickBooks is better.
Yeah.
So was this something who's Capterra? Is Capterra the person that owns FreshBooks? Because that's usually how it works.
No, it's actually it's a company. It's a consultant company for
Okay.
small businesses. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they're
if
running-
other businesses are saying, why have I not heard about how awesome FreshBooks is? Has anyone else heard of how awesome FreshBooks is? So I would be wary of that. So just research it a little bit more before you say, I'm recommending this. Okay, so Black Shield, thoughts?
Yes. You guys had a lot of information, and it showed like how it impacts your business. Like one question that I had throughout this, and maybe I missed it, but what does 3W do? I know there's a consulting company, but what do they consult in?
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, they provide service like for instance, if you have managers that you want them to be trained in your company, that's what they do. Yeah, they train them they train in leadership skills. Yeah, so they come to your company and they do that instead of you guys doing that. I mean, the company does.
It's kind of like our team flew out to California to do some training a couple of months ago, and we hired someone from MarketForce, right? So the CEO came down and did training. It was like a 2 or 3 day event where we had team building exercises, right? So it improved our communication skills, it improved our team skills. We got to work with one another, but we got to see people that we don't get to see on a daily basis. So similar to that, it builds not only your managers, but also builds your associates, your supervisors. It creates a holistic environment for the whole organization that are involved. So it's for managers, but it also can be used for other employees as well.
Instead of managers spending time with the employees or higher managers spending time with the lower managers, so they just hire these people and they do all that for them.
Okay. Any other feedback?
So yeah, Alex, you speak very clearly and probably the best speaker. And Will, I find you to be the funniest. So I would think you guys, it'll be really cool if you guys like work together on the
Wait, he's the funniest?
Yeah.
I thought my joke was the funniest, but damn it. All right, well.
maybe next time. But yeah, it would be really cool if you two like find a way to come up with a really good hook for the presentation.
Maybe together, yeah.
Yeah, together.
Kind of like Black Shield did. That was pretty cool.
What did Black Shield do?
Oh, you don't want to know.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we'll try it for the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Presentation.
Yeah.
You guys
I think it's September 9th, right?
What is September 9th?
It's the last presentation.
December 6th is when all the presentations are.
December 9th.
December 6th.
December 6th, okay.
December 6th is when you guys are going to present. That's like 4 weeks away.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a long time.
We'll try to come up with something.
Well, don't come
I think you could come up with something.
So we won't be here.
Okay. Anything else?
I think it was early on into the presentation, like your third slide maybe, where you had the link into that website.
Yep.
I would suggest, why don't you just, so like, why did you open up the link to the website? Just to show us the website, or you just wanted to show us information on that website?
We wanted to show you the website, and also, like, if you scroll down, if you open it, and then you just click, like, home
Right.
section, you can see our name, and also if you go down, you can see all the other things that they do, like executive coaching and everything. That's what we wanted to show you guys, yeah. So, but for the final presentation, we're probably just gonna find a way to put that into the.
Like a screenshot or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That I had that same suggestion. I would just do a screenshot because navigating there kind of makes it a little bulky.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Israel.
Yeah, this way we wanted you guys to see like the real thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Who else on Black Shield had feedback?
It was just me and John.
Oh, Johnny already went. Okay, sorry. Okay, and Faisal, who had feedback? Sorry, I don't know why I didn't know 2 of you did. I guess it's getting late. Yeah. Okay.
So I liked your presentation. I thought you guys could have had a hook at the beginning, like we said before.
Mhm.
Alex, I would recommend you condense things a little more because it can be a little long.
Sure. So our last presentation we did, I feel like Jeremy back there was a little bit overwhelmed, maybe. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to maybe slow it down just a little bit and to really, emphasize on certain things. I didn't want to speak too fast, right? I wanted you guys to go take your notes and make your comments. So to Monica's point, I think for the final presentation, I'm going to speed it up again. So if you have to do comments, I guess type really fast or whatever. But I do agree, time's important because it also affects
I'll just
these guys
summarize
too.
what you're going to say. Maybe summarize it so it's.
Yeah, yeah. And also to Dr. Goodrich's point is that, yeah, the analytics slide could be summarized in a lot of ways and also maybe focus on the free version, right? 'Cause right
Yeah.
now she's not looking to drop 150 grand a year for premium, but that's something she may need to know in the future before she invests too much time in software. Continue. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I would also recommend condensing the slides because they are a little busy in some places. And I feel like you guys should also go into detail about what they do because I feel like we just missed it, like what the 3W actually does. Like I'd go and click on when you guys do the website.
Yeah.
Or the screenshot, like I actually talk about what they do.
Yeah, and to that point, I think we're going to have our own slide just for that about what they do. So you get the screenshot, and then maybe Will or one of us can go into detail about her services so that you can get more information instead of just one link.
And Will, I thought you did really good. You had good explanations. Me, same thing. Jimmy, I would just recommend slowing down a little.
Okay.
Because,
All right.
yeah.
You slow down, I speed up. We'll meet in the middle.
But otherwise, good. Really good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, who else on Team FISM?
I did.
Okay, Miguel.
I mean, everything's already been said for the most part. I think a lot of good information. Clearly, you guys did a lot of research. I like how you introduced each member and what they did. It was very clear what everyone did. Yeah, just maybe trim the presentation a little bit to include like mainly relevant information. I think that would help with your time issue as well.
Okay. I think that I agree with the comments about talk a little bit more about the company and the type of consulting they do. On the project scope, where's the one that shows the project scope? Is there a slide that shows project scope? You had the agenda, but you didn't really talk about project scope. Like yours was kind of a hodgepodge of different areas is what you ended up doing. But what was, if you go back to the client engagement letter, what was the main goal? It was really the chart of accounts and ways that they could optimize the company, right? So I think what I feel like is missing from your presentation is a slide that explains the project scope before you get into the agenda. Our project was, because the chart of accounts obviously was one of the big parts. And then y'all have a hodgepodge of these other accounting trends, tax, looking at the web stuff, which you're lucky enough that you had an IT person on your team that could do, with Jimmy's background. And then Alex dabbles in that stuff too. So you were able to probably deliver even more than what she was expecting in some of these areas. So I think what's missing here is a project scope slide, and then somehow I just felt overwhelmed by all the different areas that you guys have covered. Somehow you need to buckle it down into these were our recommendations. Our recommendations were, on the chart of accounts, we wanted to add for the extension of the future. For the accounting trends, these are things that we need to do. So I think you need to kind of somehow summarize all of that, yes.
So, yeah, to that point, do you recommend that we have our recommendations divided by each area, or do you recommend we have our recommendations at the very end, where, as you just said, we can talk about chart of accounts, website, tax, etc.
I feel like the recommendations should all...
I feel like it should be at the end.
I think it should be at the end if it's possible. But like right here is a good example. You talked about accounting trends for small businesses, but then you talked about tax. There's so much that you have here. It's really hard for me to say what was it you recommended. Like I loved what Jimmy said about the video. That's great. There's so much there. I got overwhelmed, I think, with what you guys were presenting. So what I would say is maybe simplify a little bit of some of the sections, and then just talk about the key recommendations in each area. And I don't know, I know that two of you work full-time. Do you work full-time too, Jimmy? Are you interning?
Part-time.
Part-time.
Yeah.
Me, I see around. I'd like for you guys to maybe go through and try to do more on the recommendations, and maybe me can come and see me because I see her around campus a lot more, I think. But I'd like to see that kind of buckled down. Areas I liked about your presentation. I like the APWY consulting on your slides. I love that. I think that's great. I like that you did so much work, and you guys are pretty much done with your work, which is phenomenal. That's great. But I'd like to see more, because if you really think about what consultants do, it's the recommendations, it's the results, it's the impact of what you did. And even to that point, Will, like you said, I'm the tax man, and then don't say, well, I don't really know that much about tax. No, just own it. You're the tax man. I'm the tax man. I'm doing the taxes, you know. Don't say, well, I don't really know that much about it, because then that, I mean, you already had yourself elevated to tax man. You know, I do think, I mean, Alex, you started off very passionate, but we're really trying to get that hook in, not the introductions. So some kind of hook, like whatever. I don't know what that should be. You got a month to figure it out. Yeah. Alex, don't take this the wrong way. You don't need to finish off, because you're gonna take as much time as you can, and it's just gonna. You get excited and you get into it. I think someone else needs to end. I'm just throwing that out there. Probably someone else. Maybe Will. I don't know. Does that hurt your feelings? I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I just think you've got to try to rein that in, because it's gonna get away from you, I think.
Can we still get, I don't know how much time do we have?
You can ask for more time, but like, it was 15 minutes. Where were they? 17, 18, 19? I mean, if I give you 17, you're gonna take 19. I mean, you've got to just really watch what you're talking about. So Alex, I mean, one nice thing is, if you were a professor, you could totally, you know, use up the entire amount of time, and you have great stuff to say. You're very interesting. That's not the part. It's just, we've got to rein in the time.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
just be careful.
I agree.
And I don't think it's a matter of talking faster. I just think it's a matter of not having you finish. I don't know. I don't know.
I just think we explain everything, like every little thing that people want, like common sense, you know? Like,
What do you mean?
like the way he explains, like he explains too much. I think it takes so long.
Yeah, try to see if you can elevate it a little bit higher, Alex, on some of the information, and really kind of look at it like the $150,000. Okay, so that's how much a big business is paying, but that's not relevant to your client, really. I mean, I think that's great to be in the research paper, but talk about what she should do. Talk more about recommendations, just like, you know, more on the recommendations, a little bit less on the detail there. So just be careful on the time. That's what I would say. I think practicing more, knowing exactly what you're talking about. Maybe, I think, because I'm like you too, Alex, I can talk, and I have to really watch myself and rein myself in. Talk about what is the main objective? I think for you, speaking points. Yep. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. And then watch your time, and just guard your time. And when you realize that you're past that time, I think Monica was just trying to say, I think you knew that it was time, you just didn't really care. You know,
So in my defense, while you guys are taking shots at me,
I'm not trying to be negative, okay?
So in my defense,
Yeah.
this is the first time I'm seeing this presentation.
Okay, that's fine.
We did no preparation. We just went in here with I think we just finished it like 10 minutes before.
Okay, well then that's fine.
This was a good time for us to see where we were on our time, what we could improve
Okay.
on. And so your feedback is helpful.
We're not trying to take pot shots at anybody. I'm just telling you, just be careful in the time. But that's fine. If you haven't practiced it as a team, I think it won't be a problem. Right? Is that what you're telling me?
If we can just put have our schedules aligned, I think we'd do pretty well.
I think that sounds great. So I think, like I said, there's no doubt that you guys have done some great work here. I just want to make sure that gets showcased and it doesn't get lost with all the details of everything you did. So really, I think once I talk with the team tonight too, once I look over your research paper, I'll be able to give you better direction on what I feel like are the most important things for you guys to have in here. But mainly what I would say is slide on project scope, client overview, just do a little bit more on the company. Everyone should do takeaways. Have a slide for the takeaways so that you each share that. I would probably add a thank you slide, although you did do the thank you. I would just add a slide for that, and I would focus on recommendations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and really, I think all of the teams are in a good place. You guys have done some great work for these clients, and I'm excited about that. So let's give them a round of applause.